All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Grind My Gears. This is popular demand. We got the man back. Before we get started, log on to www.ashtonmma.com. Use discount code Brown Privilege. Get yourself 10% off any of the gear online. We just launched a Nutrition Plus program. If you're looking to get yourself in better shape and help with nutrition guidance from experts, that's where you go. Also, log on to www.rebeccagodfreyartistry.com. Uh, Sign up for her newsletter. You get 10% off as well. All of her designer brands and art and everything else like that. So let's get to it. Back by popular demand. Chris Bonfoco from the island. Or not, no, you're not on that fucking island.
I'm on the peninsula. The peninsula of Placencia, Belize.
So, how is it, Coach?
Good. Well, first I want to chime in here for charity that I'm kind of helping out here.
Yeah, go for
you
it.
see my shirt with the blue ribbon. There's a plane landing right next to it here. Liberalism, find a cure. It's a really important thing. We should be looking into staying out of totalitarian states. I attribute this shirt to Mr. Mark Dice. Maybe one day he'll see this podcast, but important charity, guys. We got to find a cure.
We gotta find a cure because we have zero cures for it. We got cures for everything else, but liberalism.
Not real liberalism, though, the pretend one that we're witnessing right now.
The woke liberalism. So, how is it down there? I was asking you about it the other day, and you said you're gonna let me know when you talk to me.
All right. So, part of the reason we came here was we knew what was coming in Canada, and we wanted to get out, keep our freedom, and just kind of from afar, kind of observe, stay away from the whole thing, and see what's going down. And we came here because, it's a developing nation. Like I say, third world. Some people get offended by that. It's kind of in between. I guess that's part of being a developing nation. Is we came here because usually the world kind of ignores these kind of places. And in the last couple of weeks, I got to shut that window
because of the airplanes.
There's really not that many that come in, by the way. But whenever you get here, you come down to visit me. I'm not gonna pick you up in my truck. I'm just gonna take a dinghy across. You just walk across the tarmac. I'll pick you up in my dinghy.
When I visit you, we might have to drive from Canada. They might not let my ass. They might not let us,
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we came here to Belize to get away from it. So what's happened since we got here? When we got here, there was a curfew at 7 p.m. until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And you have to wear masks outside, which it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But so anyway, that was kind of it. And the things started to loosen up. Like I started a little school down here. I didn't really promote it much, because of COVID. Like in Canada, when we got to reopen, and all the momentum was lost, and it was like no point in putting in the effort. So I'm like, right now, I want to keep it small until
you figure it out. Yeah.
So anyway, we started our contact sports here at the middle of April, whereas Ontario was until July, right? Yeah. So, which was nice, but now they have these things called SIs here. They're called statutory instruments, and the current one. There's some crazy things happening down here, and I can get into it, like conspiracy-wise, and what's actually going on globally. So the health minister here announced 2 weeks ago that as of October 1st, you're not able to go into any public space without a vaccine passport.
Okay.
Now, they don't have QR codes here. There's no way they could do. I don't even know how they're going to try to enforce this here. Like, this is a country the size of Southern Ontario with 300,000 people living in it.
Yeah.
And they don't have much for infrastructure, right? Like, it's easy for the cops to kind of catch people doing things because there's only a few roads. Like, there's not a lot of roads connecting areas to areas. Like, inside communities, there's dirt roads. But so anyway, you have to have that.
Yeah.
Now, when that came out, it's funny here because the mafia here is the Mennonites. It's for real.
It's the reverse.
Right? It's so bizarre because the Mennonites here came about 25 years ago, and huge props to them because the only reason there's paved roads in this country is because the Mennonites. Like they've done a lot of work here, and they came here because they were told they had amnesty if they had to go to war or something because they're pacifists. They want nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah.
And they really have helped the Belizean economy. They built houses, they built roads, they opened stores. Like they make their own wood, right?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how much they do in this country.
What percentage of the economy would you say they kind of?
I don't know. I like if I was to assume it's over 50%.
Wow, that much,
right? Because they employ so many people. And,
yeah.
They do a lot of stuff.
Regardless of the number, it's a significant amount.
Oh yeah, and like talking about food production, all of that.
Yeah.
So they're coming out with these rules. That's supposed to start October 1st. So the Mennonites met with the prime minister here and basically said, and they had sent out an open letter. Their verbiage in the letter was absolutely brilliant. They said, the vigor in which the government is moving forward with these mandates displays nothing more than nefarious intent.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the language that they used. Because people think Mennonites, they think horse and carriage, right? Like these people are sophisticated people.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they met with the prime minister last Tuesday, and all of a sudden this new statutory instrument came in for the next 2 weeks. Now, the next 2 weeks, this is what's going on. I live in Placencia, so there's 4 areas of the country: Placencia, Hopkins, San Pedro, and Key Cocker. These are the 4 major tourist areas.
Yeah.
They do not have to abide by a lot of these rules. Everywhere else in the country, all non-essential businesses are shut down again now, and contact sports are shut down again. So I've been shut down. Like I'm not doing a lot, but I'm having fun, man. Like my commute to work is down the stairs in my front deck to my side yard. Like that's where I teach. This is amazing. I went from like such a huge overhead where I was
nothing
2 years ago to like nothing, right? And it's amazing. Like I've really reconnected with my jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts roots, right? But because I'm not stressed at the beginning of every month. But anyway, so that's been shut down. Now the curfew is now for every area except the ones I said earlier is now from 7 p.m. until 4 a.m.
Okay.
All non-essential businesses are closed, and the entire country, including Key Cocker, San Pedro, Placencia, and Hopkins, on Sunday we're under house arrest.
Seriously?
Yeah, we can't go anywhere on Sunday. You're allowed to go to the grocery store. That's it. You can't go, like starting October 1st, they're saying that we can't go to any public place. I mean, plus Belize is different. Like when I order meat, I order meat from a business called Coaxana. It's a Mennonite business.
Yeah.
And they deliver it right to my house. The guy who sells me my vegetables drives his truck into my neighborhood, and I buy my vegetables off his truck.
Is this rule for every Sunday? You can't leave your fucking house?
So right now, for the next 2 Sundays, this Sunday and next Sunday.
What is the rationale behind that?
There is no rationale behind it. That's the thing. That's the thing, right? Same, like I was talking to a Belizean a couple weeks ago. She's a bartender and saying like these like when they were talking about moving the curfew back to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
4 a.m. I'm like, why? That makes no sense. What? Because joggers and early morning cyclists are the scourge of society. Like, that's all who's out at that time. Like, I go out at 4 a.m. to train because it gets so damn hot here. You can't do anything after 8 a.m.
Yeah,
right. It's too hot.
Yeah, that makes the perfect sense to wake up early and get it done.
Yeah.
Is this what's the numbers? Is this in justification of a rise of cases? Is that why they're doing it?
Well, that's what they're saying. Now, sorry.
Airplane.
I swear to God, they don't land this on. Uh,
They just knew,
the
they just knew we were gonna do this. Like let's.
Right, yeah, it's all prop planes. So when you fly here from Belize City, you feel like you're Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So, so,
The
um,
propeller at the front.
so the numbers are up here,
Yeah.
but who can trust those, right? Because
I don't trust one of them.
right, everything is so damn inconsistent. Like I was reading the newspaper from here last week, and they can't even get their own damn propaganda straight.
Yeah.
So, and it's all over the world, but I mean, here maybe it's easier to spot because the paper said, oh, there's 7 out of 10 of the COVID patients in the ICU are unvaccinated, and in the same paragraph, they say that 85% of the people in the hospital are unvaccinated. With people with COVID are unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Well, if 15% of the people in the hospital have their double vax, but 30% of the people in the ICU have their double vax, you're not even getting your propaganda.
Yeah, the numbers don't add up. They just don't.
That says like shit. If I end up in the hospital with the vaccine, I'm in more trouble than if I don't.
Yeah.
Right. And the other number is that last I checked, is this country only has 18% of the population is vaccinated.
So it's a very low amount.
So if only 18% of the population is vaccinated, but 30% of the people in the ICU are double vaxxed.
That's technically a big number of the proportion of the people that are vaccinated, correct? Then?
Right. And I'm sure they don't mean it to come off that way, but if you're actually looking at the numbers and reading into what they're saying, they're not even getting the propaganda straight.
Yeah. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
And then if 15% of the people, like if 18% of the people of the population are vaccinated, but 15% of the people in the hospital from COVID are vaccinated, that means only the vaccine is only 3% effective.
Yeah.
If I'm using my math correct.
Using your math correct.
Right. So how does that make any sense? And that means that 15% of the unvaccinated would be affected, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
but the numbers here don't.
And I know that's bad. That's really from a market
really bad
perspective. That's bad math. But it makes you think. Like, wait a second.
The numbers here are it's the same thing, because every day I'm pretty sure because you were here for a little bit before you left. Every day they report the fucking numbers because it's propaganda. You don't need to know them every day, but they make it knowledgeable to the public every day, basically to scare you. My first problem with how they report the numbers is every media outlet, say the number is, just pick a random 655, they will automatically in their headline close to 700 cases. Just say the actual fucking number. Now I'm actually seeing is they will say, okay, here's the number of cases for the day, so let's pick an even number of 200, right? It's more than that, but it's 200. And they will say the amount of cases that are from unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, or undisclosed is 180, right? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, now you're lumping in 3 sets of numbers within one category and making the perception that it is one thing, which it's not. So what is it? Is it how many people are totally unvaccinated? How many people have 1 dose and undisclosed? You can't lump those in. And what they're doing is they're lumping those 3 numbers together to create a larger number in order to push the agenda of what they're going for, which is obviously in Canada right now, get everybody a vaccine, right? But I don't know if they're doing that there, but they're doing it here. And I've picked up on it for a long time, and those numbers are not real. Like when they say those numbers it's not real. Tell me the real numbers, and then maybe you'll get rid of some of the skepticism. But until that day,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. Like, holy crap. Like, no wonder people are hesitant. The message has been, it's so inconsistent. Like they're like I was saying, how here they're not even getting it straight, their own propaganda. Like nowhere is getting their propaganda straight.
No, nowhere.
Like look at Dr. Fauci. How many times did he say things like when he says the double mask? It's like Tim Pool pointed this out, talking about how CNN would ask him a question, right? Is 1 mask effective or is 2 more? And then all of a sudden he goes, 2 masks are more effective. And then the following week CNN said, well, we looked at it and 1 mask is more effective. And Fauci says, yeah, 1 mask is all you need, right? Like Well, is
What is it? What is it?
yeah, is the tail wagging the dog or what? Right? Like that's you get that reference, I'm sure.
I get and the other messaging issue is one time what they will at least in Canada is what they will come out and say the effectiveness of these vaccines. They seem to be changing every day. And then their excuse is, well, this is a developing situation, the science changes. Well, if you're looking to build confidence within a population, maybe you should fucking wait, like, maybe a 2, 3, 4 extra weeks till you get the actual data in and report properly. Because I think if you really want to build public trust back, which is it's at an all-time low, like trust between the public and the government is not there. I mean, obviously, for a certain group of people, they'll believe anything they hear, but the trust is not. If you want to get the trust back, just stop giving information, just blurting it out. Okay, we're going to do this, and then 2 weeks later, we're going to do this because the information should wait. Get all the facts together and present it all at once, and then the mixed messaging will kind of disappear. I think we're what, almost 2 years into this now. We're heading into the final second year of this. The messaging has not changed in the fact that every week or two they keep confusing people more and more and more. And to be honest, nobody knows what to believe anymore. So at the end of the day, they're saying, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna not care," right? And that's where we're at right now, at least in Canada, and I can see that happening around the world. I mean, look at Australia. Australia is a fucking shithole.
Well, I mean, if people, the sad thing is, if people actually looked at Australia critically, that all these anti-gun people,
Yeah,
right? Like that's what happens
when you take
when you allow the government all the power.
Yeah,
like I don't want to get into a Second Amendment debate.
mm-hmm.
I don't understand why people don't understand it.
Yeah,
because it's not the guns that the legal purchase guns that causes problems. Like look at Canada. Like Trudeau saw an opportunity to do something and he did it based on nothing, right? Yeah. Like no AR-15 has ever been used to kill a Canadian.
No. Every person,
handguns are the problem, and they're unregistered gang violence.
Every person I know with an automatic rifle is a licensed gun holder and a responsible fucking human being. I know quite a few. I have at least 10 to 15 friends who have gun licenses and have those rifles, and none of them have that thing out. They are responsible gun owners. They only shoot it at the range. It's all locked up in cases. They're all responsible. It's not. It's the illegal guns coming in from the U.S. It has nothing to do with the responsible gun owners in Canada. So that whole thing was just a play that he used politically to
people buy into it, and that's what comes into what I see as the greatest tragedy of this entire
situation.
What do you call it? I wouldn't even call it situation. This era, has been in the COVID era. COVID has enabled weak people too much power.
Yes.
100%. Okay, weak of character, weak of strength. There's no more meritocracy. All you have to do now, and this is why this debate has gotten so bad, is you do not have strong alpha people running what's going on.
Yeah. 100%.
All you have to do is pretend you're compassionate.
Yes.
That's why people think Trudeau is like these idiots who vote for Trudeau. I'm sorry, I'll just say you're an idiot if you vote for Trudeau. And these people who do this, they're doing. Oh, he's compassionate. That man is not compassionate.
Not one bit. Not one.
Any person who says there will be consequences if you don't take the jab, that is an authoritarian right there. You have
threat. It was a threat.
And they're the same people. Like, I'm so disgusted with these people. They're the same people who sit back and they call everybody a racist, and they turn around and they're the ones who are doing exactly what the people did. It's like, oh, how did Germany fall to the Nazis?
Yeah.
Because of you. You're the one who did it.
And I'm not going to make specific examples, but you're 100% right, because I see that within family and friends. I see the exact same situation you're describing, is that
Yeah.
The ones that vote for him are actually the ones that are perpetuating those
Right.
things.
And like I say, the weak people getting power. It's because now all you have to do is say, I'm getting the jab because I care about you. I'm putting on my mask because I care about you. I'm doing this because I care about.
Yeah.
A grown up, a human grown up knows a specific thing. There is no such thing as an unselfish task.
Yeah.
An unselfish act. Sorry.
No such thing. No such
There's
thing.
no such thing. And people will hear that. And I've said that to so many people over the years. People hear that and they'll think like, oh, that's not right. Like, what are you talking about? When people do work for charity, they do it because maybe they do care about the charity, and they probably do because I mean it's volunteer work.
It makes them feel
but
good.
they do it to put on their resume. They do it because it makes them feel good.
The act of it making you feel good is a selfish act. That's you do
exactly.
That's a selfish
exactly.
act. Yeah, I don't know.
So when you're saying like I'm getting the jab and social distancing and doing everything that Doug Ford is, who like has the number one comorbidity of COVID-19. And I watched a video of his daughter on a treadmill the other day, and it was a good video.
She's like,
and it was funny because it's like, well, she must not be on the same page as him because
no, she's
like,
not. My wife.
He doesn't even know that man doesn't know what a treadmill is. He's like, what is that contraption?
Yeah, my wife brought that up. She's totally against everything. So it's kind of odd to see him take certain actions when his own family members are quite vocal about it. But the media doesn't cover that, right? They don't cover her. They don't. They know that It's kind of weird that it's ammunition for all the other parties. Like if I was the Liberals or the NDP, because there's a provincial election coming up, I'd be all over that shit. I'd be using her and be like, Doug Ford can't even control his own family. What makes you think he can control the province? I would be.
It's funny because that's a liberal.
Yeah,
right? A liberal saying like he can't even control. A fucking liberal. Sorry, my a liberal should not be saying he can't control his family.
Yeah.
This is why I'm wearing this shirt. Oh, look, it's the other side. This is why I'm wearing this shirt. A liberal can't say I'm going to, he can't control his family because a liberal's not looking to control their family, his or her family, or their family. Sorry. Right? It's like
wrong pronoun. You're gonna
so the hypocrisy is brutal. So like to the weak people who now have control, like the problem is when you have weak people in control is chaos happens.
Yes.
And it's like, so your typical left-wing lunatic these days is going to say like, well, what are you calling a weak person, right? Like you wanted a dictator, you fascist, right? Like, no, strong people don't like fascism. Weak people do.
Yes.
Or communism, because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. The thing is like strong people want to be left to fend for themselves and to have their freedoms and respect what their neighbor does and respect what the person on the other side of the world does. That is liberalism, not what we're seeing today.
Well, when I see these, I was telling my wife this, and it's just my observation because I like to participate in society sometimes and just watch and kind of see and observe from the outside. And so what I'm kind of observing now is, obviously the media does one thing where they propagate stuff, but they're saying how like a lot of Canadians support the idea of a passport, right? Well, my observation,
I don't think so. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's not true. It's not true. That's all propaganda. But what I'm finding is the ones that actually are okay with this were the ones that in 2019, maybe all they did was get up, go to their job, come home, watch TV. They lived rather mediocre lives, right? And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but like,
no.
I'm just saying they lived normal lives. Their status when they woke up in the morning, their status was determined. This is where I'm going to be in the social ladder for the foreseeable future or for the rest of my life. And the ones that I'm seeing being very vocal about in support of this because it gives them an opportunity to increase their status. Now all of a sudden I'm part of this exclusive club that gets to do things, and other people who are actually successful, or hardworking or independent thinkers who maybe just don't want to participate in this jab thing because they've made a choice. Well, now I'm above them. It gives me a chance to jump this social ladder, and now I'm an elite, sort of like an elite, and then the fringes, and then that's my
Exactly what I'm
social
saying.
observation of what's everything that's going on. And like you said, when I look at the people who are supporting it, and there are some people around me that do support it, and they're entitled to that fucking opinion. I don't give a shit.
Absolutely.
That's but those are the observations I make, is that they were those type of people. But in 2019, their social status was going to be here forever. Now they've seen an opportunity where they can be something more in this make believe new utopia that they're trying to build.
And how much effort did it take for them to raise their status like that?
Zero.
Exactly. All they had to do is what they're told.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't have to. Don't question anything. Don't create discomfort. Just do what you're told.
Yeah.
See, easy. Like, and nothing worth accomplishing is, like I said it in my black belt speech, right? Like anything easily earned isn't worth accomplishing.
Exactly.
Right. And that's exactly what they're doing. Weak people have taken power, and then chaos reigns. Right. And I was watching a video the other day. There's a channel called Canadian Prepper, and I'm not a huge I like his channel, but I don't know. There's a lot of clickbait, right? But he does have some decent content. He's got a 15-minute video. There's like 2 minutes of good content, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of it's just selling stuff or building up to the 2 minutes that you want to listen to.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was talking about people like me, and it actually really resonated with me. Where he's saying you take these independent thinkers and you guys kind of go off into the woods and go to do your own thing to try to stay away from it. But that's maybe part of the plan, right? They want to get the strong people, the people who are independent, onto the fringes, so that the controllable masses are there. And that's kind of it feels like this whole thing is just this massive social experiment.
Yeah.
And it's amazing now that I'm in a different country in the developing world. And it's crazy how I see things on Facebook. Well, there's one other thing that I didn't tell you.
Tell me.
They have they just passed a law for misinformation. Use of misinformation. If you can even be talking to a friend and giving them misinformation, they can report you. You can end up in jail for 6 months with a $3,000 fine.
Wow.
And who determines what's misinformation is the government. Like there was a guy who's now in jail for sharing that the CDC is pulling the PCR test on December 31st.
Yeah.
Right?
That's not misinformation. That's fact.
That's not misinformation.
Yeah.
But because the government says it is, it is.
That's what's coming here.
That's freaking scary, man.
Thankfully that Bill C-10 didn't pass. But the problem, and I think this is something some Canadians didn't take into account.
C-36 is much scarier than C-10.
Yes, exactly. The C-36 is very much scarier, but C-10 is back in play now because when Trudeau dissolved the government, so the bill didn't pass, but when he dissolves the government, and if the same government gets in, according to what I've read, they're allowed to reintroduce that bill because it's a new government. So don't be surprised if that bill comes right back into play and where the Conservatives and the other parties have to be fighting that bill again. And in my opinion, the second time would probably be a lot harder to stop it this time around. So the things that he didn't accomplish and that didn't pass in his last administration, so the last 2 years, they're coming back. It's not gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of their overall strategy of why this election was called so fast, because it was fast, it was stupidly expensive, it was terribly run, and I mean, other than him trying to achieve a majority, which he absolutely failed at.
No, he didn't.
You think he split everybody even more. So I guess maybe
he didn't. Right. He didn't. The Nazis didn't take power because they had a majority.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. And but nothing was achieved. Nothing changed in terms of the actual the seats in the government. Like the NDP picked up one here or there, but nothing physically changed. So I mean, it was a
He's got a
healthy.
majority government because the end. He's going to do
He's gonna do
He's going to
everything
do
with
everything he wants to do. The NDP's going to suck on him, and then certain things they're going to pull him further left. I don't even think it's possible.
Yeah.
But to pull him further, I don't like saying left and right because it's. I'm just done with that. It's top and bottom. It's not left and right. People, if you're a left wing, you're a plebe. Whether you're a left wing plebe or a right wing plebe, you're a plebe.
Yeah.
And it's the people at the top making you look at the fellow plebes rather than looking at the top.
Yeah.
I think the most significant piece of literature that people can be reading right now is What is the Third Estate before the French Revolution.
Sorry, refresh me on that. What is that?
What is the Third Estate?
Yeah.
So prior to the French Revolution, there was the first. They had the government was run by the first, second, and third estates.
Okay.
In order for things to pass, you had to have 2 out of the 3 estates to pass something. Problem is this: first estate was a political class, like the lords and the nobility.
Yeah.
The second estate was the church, and the third estate was everybody else, which was like 95% of the population.
Yeah.
And my battery's low. I got to plug in. I thought I was plugged in. It must have jumped out.
It's okay. Plug it in.
Yeah. So yeah, just 1 second. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I thought I was plugged in, but I wasn't. So essentially what it comes down to is this was a pamphlet. Like my favorite pamphlet ever written was Common Sense by Thomas Paine, which basically sparked the American Revolution, which is really the only successful revolution that's happened in like forever.
Yeah.
But What is the Third Estate sparked the French Revolution. So they made them realize that essentially the theme was, what is the Third Estate? The Third Estate is everything. Screw these guys. Yeah. And when Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake," right? That which is maybe or maybe not actually historically accurate, but I think it was basically like a summary of her behavior.
Yeah.
And the Third Estate woke up. Yeah, and then they came, and then the French Revolution happened, and the outcome of the French Revolution. The problem is people talk about it is they don't understand that the outcome of the French Revolution was horrible.
Yeah,
it ended up in years of terror, and then ended up in with a tyrant and Napoleon. Right.
Yeah.
However, that's what ended up happening. So, like when you're a plebe and you think you're and the worst is those left-wing plebes, right? Those left-wing plebes are like, you don't think like me, you're a bad person because you don't think like
those ones.
Like,
that bugs that
yeah.
form of thought. It really annoys me because
that form of plebe is just irritating.
Yeah, and it's such a shitty way of living, in my opinion. Like it's if that's how do you even progress as a human being? I'm trying to get the right word, like mentally. Like how do you even achieve in life? Like I go through life so that I can get to one day where I'm enlightened, where I've achieved everything I want to achieve, and I have my kids go off and all that, and I can sit back and relax and enjoy life. But that frame of mind that those people have, there's no way you can end up in that spot where you can be 70, 80, 90 years old and just be happy with that frame of mind, because you're going to take that throughout your whole entire life, and you're going to be 90 years old and you're going to still be thinking the same thing, and that you're going to be so fucked in the head by the time you're like that frame of mindset must be a stressful thing, in my opinion. It must be a stressful life to lead that frame of mind. I just can't fathom thinking about it that way, because I always go by the philosophy that everyone's entitled to their own fucking opinion. We don't have to agree on anything, and that's kind of what a democracy is. And I can still be your friend. We just don't have to agree, right? We agree to disagree and we move on. But the frame of mind that if you don't agree with me, that you're some sort of a lesser human or an idiot.
Well, I think what's happening is you have the one side saying, if you don't agree with me, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And you've got the other group of people. Let's take away sides, right? Because we're pigs. You got one group saying, if you don't think like me, you're a bad person. You're not compassionate. You're not this. You're an ist. You're an ism. You're that.
Yeah.
And then you got the other side. Now, there's faults on the other side too. When I try to avoid the whole sheep conversation, right?
Yes.
Like, oh yeah. When it gets to that point, like you've just hit a wall. You're not changing hearts and minds. You're not helping anyone.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, you got the other side saying, like, just leave me alone.
Yeah, that's my side.
Right. And you can't. I'm sorry. Like, I'm on the leave me alone, group of people like that. It's like, as a human, I have faith that other humans are genuinely good.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah.
Right. One of the things that people who are watching this, if you want to look up a classic debate on existence, is Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, the Western political structure is based off of John Locke, and that's true liberalism. Yeah. Not this liberalism.
No.
True liberalism.
Yeah.
Right? Where the individual is empowered and we respect you on property and everybody lifts up.
Yeah.
Because the respect of the individual. Whereas the Thomas Hobbes side is more of heading towards the communist fascist side. No, fascism is not the other side. It's the same fucking side. Yeah. Wake up. Right? So, anyway, if you look up that debate, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, the U.S. Constitution takes credit, like Thomas Jefferson and all them. And if you don't, if you're like, oh, the U.S. Constitution is terrible because of this, and it didn't include it, said all men are created equal, but not black people. That's called presentism, and I brought that up last time.
Yeah.
Right? They looked at it differently. You change your interpretation. All men are created equal. Includes women too, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I remember you
bring. But you can't expect to evolve 200 years just because a piece of paper says something.
Yeah.
It takes time. Right. So anyway, when we look at the U.S. Constitution, in my opinion, it's the most brilliant document ever written.
It's the only thing keeping that country intact right now. The fact that
they're just trying, and who's trying to break it, right? Yeah. Like, that document is not about, supremacies or. No, this is so funny because I made my banner at the PPC for a couple of days on Facebook, right? And I got messaged by a couple of people saying,
people commented on
you do that, right? Yeah. Kind of thinking I'm a racist. I'm such a racist that I live in a developing country with a ton of expats who I don't like 90% of them.
Yeah.
And most of my friends are the Belizeans.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know why? Because they don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Right? They don't get involved in this stuff. Right? Like, because they say, like, I saw an argument on it and I just shake my head. I'm not even going to bother anymore. There's no point. Right? How the PPCs wasn't trying to get rid of the multiculturalism.
Yeah, this is not true. No, it's not true.
But. Well, here's the thing. Some people say, like, Canada's a melting pot, so how can you get rid of multiculturalism?
Yeah.
You know how freaking stupid it is to say that?
Yeah, it's retarded.
Because if it's a melting pot, multiculturalism can't exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because everybody comes in and they go into the melting pot. Like, you go in, the United States is a melting pot. You come from everywhere and you go into the melting pot and you come out an American.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I remember my dad pointing that out. Going to Canada, like people say, like German Canadian, French Canadian, this Canadian, that Canadian. You go to the United States, America.
Yeah. Well, right? That's one of the things. I listened to, I don't know if you saw Maxime Bernier. He did the podcast with Jordan Peterson. And that's one of the more.
Jordan Peterson, isn't that white supremacist?
Yeah, that terrible
fascist
guy. No, so Maxime said something on that podcast that resonated with me really well. Whether you agree with his perspectives or not, this was such a well-spoken thing. And what he was saying is the identity politics that are being played in Canada is
that's where I was going to,
ridiculous. Yeah. And what he was pointing out was To him, what Trudeau, even the Conservative Party and the NDP, what they do is they play these cards where they say African Canadian, Chinese Canadian, let's pick another Filipino
They do it
Canadian.
on purpose.
So
Absolutely. They create division in rhetoric.
create division just by saying that. Whereas Maxime was saying is, I don't see that if you have a Canadian citizenship, you're a Canadian. You're not some designation of your race or gender or anything. I'm not a brown Canadian. I'm strictly just a Canadian. Just like you are not a white Canadian, you are a fucking Canadian. If we can all get rid of those little tiny identity labels, it will help fucking fix at least a small portion of the problem that's going on right now. But it was just like you just said, when you go to America, or when you meet an American,
but that's changed without saying.
It's changed, but like when I was going down to the train at the MMA lab, no one was saying I'm a black guy. They were telling me, yeah, we're American." It's an identity of the country that you belong to, that you're a citizen of. Whereas now what Maxime was saying, and some other politicians have said this too in criticism of Trudeau's identity politics, is that we're basically labeling everybody again and segregating even further, not just by political party now, but by color, creed, wherever the hell you came from. You get what I'm saying?
It's everything now. It's color, creed, country, whatever medical status you have, what victim status you are.
Exactly.
Right? Like, my goodness, like this is yesterday or 2 days ago. Okay, I go out for one of my long run because my Ironman's coming up in like 7 weeks, right? And I'm getting stressed, right? So I got my 2 hour and 40-minute run on Wednesday morning, and which is like, it sucks, but it's also insane.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's sucks and it's great. It's your training.
So I leave my neighborhood. So I'm running out of my neighborhood now. One of the problems down here is there's dogs everywhere, right?
Right.
And I carry a pocket knife to protect myself against stray dogs, not just stray dogs, but just dogs in general. Like, I really haven't had a problem. Most of the Belizean dogs are usually good dogs, to be honest. They're the ones that they don't even give a shit. I run by and they're just like, "Hey, man,"
what's up?
Right? Like, But I'm running out of the neighborhood. And this lady's got 3 dogs. Okay, and I'm coming down the road. And I've seen these dogs before because I've almost hit them on my bike because she never leashes them. So when I'm riding and it's dark and I got the headlight going on my bike, and I'm coming around that corner, I'm going like 30 or 40 kilometers an hour, and your dogs are just everywhere.
Yeah.
Last thing a cyclist wants to do is hit a dog because, first of all, I don't want to hurt a dog. Secondly, I'm going to take the worst of that. I'm going to crash. It's going to be horrible. My bike is worth $1 gazillion. I don't want damage to my bike, right? So anyway, I'm jogging up this street, and these 3 dogs are coming up. I see her. She leashes one, and the biggest of the 3 is like 90 to 100 pounds, some sort of lab mix.
Yeah.
He's like about 7 feet away. He's fine, and then as soon as he's beside me, he comes at me. He's attacking me. The other dog starts to come. I start to, like, I get loud. I start telling my first thing I say is "F off" to the dog, right? And I pull out my knife. I open my knife and I turn and I'm yelling at the same time. Now, a martial artist is going to understand this. The story is about 2 minutes, another 2 minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
It's mentality, right? So I pull my knife out, like, I'm freaking scared, right? Like, bang, like I got a dog attacking me. I'm in a developing country. The closest hospital is an hour and a half away. Do you think I want to get bitten by a dog?
Yeah.
Right? When I have to do a 140.6 mile race in freaking
7 weeks.
7 weeks, right? So, and it's non-refundable, by the way. So it's not cheap.
The registration's non-refundable. I gotta run that fucking.
And it's not like a jiu-jitsu tournament either, man. It's like $1,300 to register for this race. So the dog comes running at me. I pull my knife out, I turn around, and I'm vocalizing, like doing proper self-defense, right? I'm yelling out, I have a knife, I've drawn my knife, I'm going to stab your dog.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm giving the dog time, and I'm giving this dog is like inches from me. Like if it's as soon as it started to snap bang, I was coming down on it, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, the owner got in the way, got there, and then she apologized to me, and I'm pissed at this point. So of course I say like, "F your apology, control your fucking dog," right? Like I'm pissed because there's 3 dogs and a human. Because even if I stab that dog, think about how bad that situation is going to be. I got 2 more dogs to deal with and an erratic human.
Yes.
Right?
She might even, you never know what the fuck she has. Too.
Yeah, like if the situation gets worse, what am I going to have to do? Stab the dog, knock out the old lady, and then stab 2 more dogs? like, that'd be terrible. Right? So anyway, this happens, and it happens down here way too much. So I decided, okay, I make a Facebook post on a private group for the people who live down here explaining the situation, because I have no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is how dangerous the situation was. This is what I know and who I am. And like, you're lucky because it was somebody else who carries, because most of the joggers around here, they carry knives, right? Like, because for the same reason. I got elevated. I got like jacked up. Like I was not panicked, but like, raw, I was in fight mode, right?
Your adrenaline kicked in.
Yeah, like because this dog was in attack mode. Like I saw its eyes and it's baring its teeth. It's growling at me, snapping, like not snapping at me, but it's ready.
Yeah, it's ready to pounce.
So I post this thing, and I get most people are like, "Man, like I'm so sick of this happening. Like, you know, I'm glad the dogs are good. I'm glad you're okay, right? Like, good job keeping you're cool." I get these 2 people. They start coming at me. This one woman, she's like, "I hope the lady's okay because of this crazed man, like wielding a knife." She's like, "If you pulled a knife on my dog, you like eat your arm and take it." It's like, lady, I know how to use a knife. If your pit bull came at me and I have my knife in my hand, I'm sorry, I'm gonna gut your fucking pit bull. Like he might bite me, but he's dead. Like he's dead within a few seconds. So, you know, I'm not some guy. Here's my knife. Like, you know, she's like, a man once had a screwdriver and he bit the man with the screwdriver. It's like, I'm not some idiot wielding a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, she says to me, she's like, "You must have done something to provoke the dog." So here's the liberal, this kind of liberal mentality.
Yes. Where
she's like, "Okay, I must have done something to provoke the dog." So this is the same kind of woman who's going to be standing up for women's rights. Meanwhile, you know, while allowing like dudes to beat up women in MMA fights. That's another story.
Yeah, that's another.
So you know, and I sent back to her. I'm like, my goodness, you just basically said like it's her fault because she was wearing a short skirt.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was just jogging by. Right? I'm not going to have to stop and do all this defense stuff just to get by this woman who's not responsibly controlling her dogs. I had another woman say like, "Oh yeah, how does this person expect this woman to control 3 large dogs?"
Why do you have 3 large dogs if you can't control them?
Why are you walking 3 large dogs? Like a dog is a loaded weapon. It's your responsibility. Like I got like you've met Henry. Henry's a beast.
Yeah,
he's a big boy. Like he's not dangerous in any way, shape,
no, he's not dangerous, but he's a big dog. Yeah,
he's a freaking big dog. He like a lot of people down here are scared of him. A lot of Belizeans because they get bitten by these dogs.
Yeah,
right. And it's the white people's dogs, by the way. You know, they get bitten by these freaking dogs, and you know, so they're scared of Henry. Yeah. Right. Like Henry did go after one guy, but because the guy pissed me off. Henry only gets mad when I get back. And really, all you got to do is run 10 feet. He's going to be too tired. He's not going and he's not very fast. No. But anyway, I leash my dog and make sure I have control of my dog for a couple of reasons. One, I'm responsible. If one of my dogs ever bit somebody, because in Belize, if I report this to the police, they show up at your door and they shoot your dog.
Yeah. And
that's the law.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Like
I don't want that.
You don't want that.
No. And then the other side of it is like with Henry, like I don't want him getting hit by a car. I don't want him getting attacked by another dog. I leash him to keep him near me, to keep him safe because I love my dog.
Yeah.
Right. So just to go back on the entire thing, these people like arguing. One guy starts saying like, "Oh, you're a martial artist. You should be calm at all times." It doesn't show confidence. I'm like, I'm sorry. I explained that I was scared.
Yeah. I get that.
An unconfident person never says that they're scared.
I get that comment a lot. People are like, martial artists are supposed to be calm and all. Bitch, where the fuck have you, like, this is not the Tai Chi bullshit.
Yeah, he said I should be clipping a bonsai tree. I'm like, dude, Like, you realize I practice real martial arts,
Yeah,
right?
real martial arts, not
Right?
fake bullshit.
Combat.
And like, it's like, I mean, oh, I don't want to go into that depth, but like, I always get the question like, "What's it like to fight? Like, what are you thinking before you actually go?" I'm like, I'm fucking scared. Like, it's not.
Yeah. I actually explained that to this guy. Like, I've cornered over 240 MMA fights. I'll tell you that every single fighter in every one of those fights was scared. Even the fights, it's a name drop here, like Matt DeCenzo,
Yeah,
right? One of his pro fights was against a guy we knew he was going to win,
yeah,
right? Because like the guy who was supposed to fight backed out last minute. They had a replacement. We knew Matt was going to win this fight. Matt was more scared for that fight than any other fight he ever had.
yeah. That's
Right?
how fighting goes, right?
And Matt gets nervous.
Yeah,
And he was, because he knew he was supposed to win.
yeah.
Like I and me as his coach, I was probably most nervous in all the fights he had in that fight.
In that fight, yeah,
For the same reason, like, because the other guy was dangerous. Like, he's pro fighter,
yeah.
not as good as Matt, but he's pro fighter, and like
Anything can happen too. It's
anything
like,
can happen, right?
yeah, fight.
And Matt's going into a match he's supposed to win, and you know,
No,
damn, that's freaking scary, man.
it's a giant misconception that just because someone's trained or tough or how looks a certain way or has lived a certain life, that those kind of situations like you were just describing doesn't put them in a fear mode. Then that
Yeah,
fear, and it wasn't a fear of that you thought you were going to die. It was a fear that you had to defend yourself in a not normal situation, right?
yeah.
And
Like me, my situation there was that it was a
yeah,
fear
that's
of,
not an average thing. You don't wake up in the morning and think a dog's gonna fucking rip your head off, right? So you're in
yeah,
that situation
well,
to a certain level of heightenedness. It's not a fear of death. It's not. It's a fear of bodily harm, right? And
yeah,
I don't comprehend how some people don't understand that. Just because someone looks a certain way, like the perception, or if they're an alpha male or an athlete or whatever, they don't have those feelings, that the same
yeah.
feelings that you have in those situations. So,
I was talking to a bartender. George is chiming in here. Just kidding. Yeah, I was talking to a bartender at a resort here called Umaya. I highly recommend it, by the way. It's a beautiful place. I swim my lengths there. It's in Maya Beach, please. And I was talking to the bartender, and he's asking me questions like, what you do for a living? I'm like, oh, I'm the coach. I'm a mixed martial artist. I teach jiu-jitsu, like, corner fights, right? I haven't fought mixed martial arts, but I'm
yeah,
a BJJ guy. And we were talking, and he's like, well, how many, if you're on the street and there's like 6 guys, like how many of those guys are going to hit them? Well, one, right? Like, trying to be like, anyone who tells you they can beat up 6 people is like, yeah, I get to beat up 6 people. That's how you know that you're not talking to a real martial artist. I can handle one guy at a time.
A real martial artist knows if you have 5 or 6 guys,
I'm gonna run. Well, that's what I said to him. How are you going to deal with that situation? I'm saying, I can run really fast.
Yeah.
Right?
I kick the closest one in the balls and then I run so that I only have to deal with 4 or 5 more of those guys, right? There's no way I'm going to and get into a situation like that voluntarily.
Yeah, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to levitate. I'm going to go all like Matrix. And, the police officer is saying, like, I'm sorry, your men are already dead. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm probably really messed up if I decided to engage with more than one person. Yeah. Right?
Hey, where were we before we went off on a tangent? So we were talking about the dogs and liberalism, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got like totally sidetracked. But it's all in the same theme though. It's like a mentality, right? Like we're talking about that mentality. Like you started talking about how like these people who say you should be doing these things, you should do this, you should do that, like how it's such an unhappy existence, right?
Yeah.
And then like I kind of got into it explaining like the cognitive dissonance in that mentality. Like, the dog is so important and you did this and you were the knife and you must have done something wrong to provoke that. But on the same end of the coin, how dare you ever say that, it's her fault because she provoked him? Like, by the way, that's totally a bullshit argument.
Yeah.
All right. So don't take what I'm saying that way, but it's on the same lines. It's like, like a dude who attacks a woman because she's dressed sexy is not because she's dressed sexy. It's because he has problems.
Yes,
A dog that's unleashed, that attacks a human going by, is not because the human provoked them. It's because that dog has problems.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the world is kind of falling apart, and when you get these weak people, to them it's only in the moment where they can come off as the most compassionate.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
like,
sorry, the last time we talked was what, 5 months ago, maybe, right? And
somewhere around.
yeah, and now that I go back and I think not much has changed. In fact, it has gotten worse. Like the virus situation is getting better, in my opinion. It's getting better in the fact that we know how to deal with certain situations. People are a little bit more educated on how to detect it, and we're getting better on how to handle it. That's probably the reason why Ontario is open for business right now. But the
You got about 8 more weeks.
yeah, give it time. That's what we're saying. Uh, but the underlying issue now is not necessarily the virus will kill itself off and it will become part of normal life relatively soon. But the implications of how it has changed everything with regards to, like we were saying, the weak people now rising up, that's going to be a long-term effect, in my opinion. Like, this situation is far from over. Like we will get rid of the virus will become a normal part of life, but this shift and this change, where these sorts of people have now gotten to these ridiculous amounts of authority and power, these are going to have long-lasting effects. So this situation is nowhere near over. And someone was asking me last night at jiu-jitsu, the same question, like, how long do you think? And I'm like, buckle in for about 5 years. That's when you might see some change. But at this point, I don't.
This has never been about a virus.
No.
I'm sorry. It's never been about a virus. The virus is real.
Yes.
The virus is a vehicle. Right? Like, it's like, oh, that's conspiracy theory. Like, it's so funny too, because there's people saying conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory. Why is it that every conspiracy theory in 2020 came true?
Yep.
Not every.
Most.
Well, the little bit of the 5G stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, the microchips and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, like that's a little bit wacky, but like the Chris Sky video. I mean, come on, right? Like,
I was a fan of him at the start, just because of standing up and doing stuff, but he got a little wacky tobacky towards the later half of this year.
Well, you know what happens there, right? Is that's the ultimate weakness of all humans, which is part of the brilliance of the U.S. Constitution. Is every human has an inherent weakness, and that's power.
Yeah.
Right. The more power people get, the more corrupt they get, and it's like it doesn't matter. You could take Jordan Peterson, who to me is like probably the most based human on this planet.
Yes, I love that
guy.
Yeah.
And you give him too much power and he will exploit it. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's super scary, and that's why the US Constitution has so many checks and balances in order to stop that. Right. So Chris Sky, he nailed some things really well, but as that happened, his power gained
popularity.
And then it became things turned into you being a wackadoo.
Yeah, he caved. He caved when he had the chance to do something really positive for his life. But it is what it is. That's not the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, I don't know how far it's gone down, but the pattern is always the same. Right?
Yeah,
like it's and so for now, like, I've read a couple of books recently that I like to read everything.
Yeah,
right? As much as I can get my hands on. And I read the Great Reset, which is a conspiracy.
Conspiracy, but yeah.
Because the book I read, The Great Reset, was the conspiracy book written by Klaus Schwab himself and the other guy. I can't remember the other guy. Right? It came directly from Klaus Schwab, from the IMF and the World Economic Forum. And essentially that book is the Communist Manifesto for today, right? The way it's worded, the way it's like, oh, the virus is, this is how we're going to come out of it. This is going to, it makes everything sound hunky-dory. And then I read another one called Endgame by Dr. Vernon Coleman.
I've heard of that one. Yes.
And, because all of a sudden Vernon Coleman is, he's a conspiracy theorist. Even though he's written a gazillion books, everybody loved him. Now that he's not following the narrative, he's terrible. He's probably a supremacist of some sort.
Yeah.
According to the mainstream media. And it's interesting how he kept alluding to in that book, like, none of this is by accident. None of this is by accident.
No, I think this was all by design, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But then you get people, they say, like, well, hey, come on, like, you have all these people in on it, someone's going to crack. Here's the problem is, there's a book called Influence. Okay, it's by Dr. I think it's Anthony Cialdini. It's a fantastic book to read if you own a business, right? It is. If you want to market, you want to do sales, you better read Influence. It is, because essentially it equates people into automatons.
Yeah.
Okay. And because we all have neural programming that causes us to react in specific ways and specific reactions. So when you think like, oh, well, a conspiracy like on this scale can only happen if all these people are in it, and there's no way that it's going to happen. That's not true. It only takes a couple of people.
Yeah.
Right? It only takes a couple of people, and people who understand human psychology and how I put this up as soon as the pandemic hit, and it's more true every day than the day before. It's when Agent K says to Will Smith's character at the beginning of Men in Black.
Okay, that movie.
The person is smart. People are dumb, dangerous, panicky animals, and you know it.
Yep.
Right? And that's essentially what's happening. Like, you make people scared enough, they stop their ability to reason, they stop their ability to think, and you get them on a line, especially like, man, like the whole jab thing. Like, well, if you have the jab, why are you so scared of the person without the jab? Well, that's not proper thinking, because you're keeping the virus going. It's like, the virus is going to keep going. Like, smallpox is not dead.
Yeah.
The measles is not dead. Like, people think that, oh, we've killed polio. Like, no, it's still there. Like Jordan Peterson, no. Like, it's still there. This is a coronavirus. It's very different. And, if you have the vaccine, then you should feel pretty safe.
Sure, you should. That's normally what those things are.
Like, if I'm next to a person with polio, I don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm next to someone with tuberculosis, someone with the measles, I don't care. I have my vaccine.
And like, I'm not against any vaccines. I shot Benson up with him all caught up with his shit. Like, I'm not against anything. Like, that's we talked about that last time. If you're against the narrative, or if you're against a certain topic, you automatically get labeled as anti, right? They always put
anti. Yeah. Well, they got to label you.
Yeah.
Or a denier.
Yeah, or you're a vaccine. That I'm not against it. Like, I'm vaccinated. My wife has vaccine. Everybody, like my whole family, my kids got their shots. Like, I'm not against any of those things, because you know what, I really don't want the measles. Like, that's something I don't want, right? These the fact that if you ask questions, you're labeled now. Like, I think one of the podcasts I think that is very good. I don't know if you've seen the one that Joe Rogan did with Dr. Weinstein and Pierre Corey. Have you seen that one?
I did not watch. Well, I watch Dark Horse a lot. That's Brett Weinstein's.
Yeah, Brett Weinstein's channel. But he did one maybe 2 months ago with Joe Rogan, and this Dr. Pierre Corey, he came on, and his I guess little group of doctors, their thing is that when the pandemic struck, they believed that, why would we look to make something new? Let's find something that our science has already created and see if it can be retooled, repurposed to use for this coronavirus. That was,
there's no profit in that.
Exactly. In a nutshell, that's what his group of doctors were doing. And, I'm going to say it only once. It's the ivermectin that they came up with, right? And now, I mean, Joe Rogan took it in. It was horse dewormer, and we don't need to get into
like that right there. Like how people can't see through that.
Yeah,
right.
Like if you look up the actual function of the drug, it has nothing to do. Like
it didn't win the Nobel Prize in 2015 as a miracle drug because it got rid of worms in horses.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's the people who run with that narrative too. Like, oh, you're so stupid if you think ivermectin works. Like, come on. Like, it just. Why was it? Right. Like, there's so much like Trump hate with it. It's like, think with your brain. Don't think with other people's brains. When Trump brought up hydrochloroquine, he brought it up because the French were using it and it was showing promise.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden in the media, this woman comes on. I think we talked about this last time a little bit. And this woman comes on. Yeah. And her husband died because they took this fish tank cleaner because it said something like it was hydrochloroquine in their panic. And the media reported it. And they even had her say, like, what does this tell you? So I don't believe a thing the president says. And they played it over and over and over and over again. Now, people start to believe this. Now, all of a sudden, this drug that's been used to cure malaria, which is a respiratory disease, for over 100 years is all of a sudden dangerous. It's FDA approved, but all of a sudden it's dangerous.
Dangerous.
But what they didn't tell you is that this same woman, she's got to be in jail by now, ended up getting charged for murdering her husband. She was never a Trump supporter. Like they were acting like they were these, yokels, the dumb Trump supporters, as the media brings up, and brings that. And, she turns out that she actually murdered her husband, and she was a historic donator to the Democratic Party. But the media doesn't tell you that. Steven Crowder had to break that. And Steven Crowder actually called ABC to the person who broke the news and did a live call on his show, and like they ended up hanging up on him, right? Because he was basically like, well, why are you spreading this when you know it's this? And you're saying, like, please give me a reason. And he had her on the line for, like, it was hilarious, right? Like, because she had no answer. But of course nobody sees this, right? Because they're told, oh, Steven Crowder, he's one of those ists and isms.
Yeah, whatever.
Right? Like you can't listen to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they don't see, it's like, guys, 1984 was required reading. Like, why? Or Brave New World, or
back to that.
Watch V for Vendetta, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, there you go. That's
like, my God.
When you get back to that podcast, though, when you get back to that conversation that they were having with Joe, what they were basically, how they explain it is, or what they said they can't conclusively prove this, but you have to get these red flags in your brain, and this is what they were saying is, so the company that produces ivermectin is a company called Merck, right? And the reason why they want to basically discredit this potential treatment, let's label it as that before YouTube flags me, it's a potential treatment, is it's out of patent, which what that means for people who don't know is I can get the ingredients together, Chris can get the ingredients together over there, and you can produce it on your own, no problem, right? So there's no profit in that. Merck now started to discredit their own drug, the same drug that they were cool with having before and promoting and whatever. They started to discredit their own drug. And you have to ask the question, well, why? Well, they're producing a vaccine for COVID-19 as well. So by disproving their own drug, they can now bring to market an emergency use authorization vaccine for profit. They can't make profit off of ivermectin, but they can make profit off of the new thing that they're creating.
Right.
Now,
Sorry,
go
ahead. Sorry.
There's no, like, the doctor was quite adamant that he's not accusing anybody of anything, right? But we have to start asking, you have to critically think about that situation. Well, all of that is money driven. All of that is financial gain driven. Well, then there is an issue. We need to start seeing, and maybe, like, before you discredit something, do the research on it. You gave everything else the research. You're talking about trust the science. will actually put in the studies. And if you really want to debunk the conspiracy, put in the studies and show us that that's not an effective treatment. But that's not happening. It's just, let's suppress it. Let's suppress.
You know, India is suing the WHO, right?
Yeah, for sure. I know, because they're using Pierre Corey's. They're using it. He used it in South Africa as well. That's how they treated this South African variant, right? I did the
and then at the same time, is if there is this is why, like, if the back to the hydrochloroquine thing, I'm not saying that it works or doesn't. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get to make sense of all this.
We're two fucking martial artists talking shit on the internet. Like I'm not claiming to be a doctor at all.
Exactly. Like, and it's like, but we have reason to question things because everything constantly changes.
Yeah.
Well, how is it that a drug that's been FDA approved and has been used for 100 years is all of a sudden dangerous and the worst thing in the world, and you shouldn't think about it? And if they just, and the vitriol in which they went after it, same with ivermectin, right?
Yeah.
It's because if there's alternative treatments, you can't have an emergency authorization vaccine.
Yeah.
And people are starting to more en masse become aware of that.
Yeah.
Just like, people using the argument that, well, it's not FDA approved, it's an experimental drug.
Yeah.
Which all of a sudden it gets FDA approved.
Yeah. All of a sudden.
But was it actually approved?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just an extension. No.
So from what I know, I watched listening to Dr. Robert Malone talk about it. He was talking about about what had happened is basically the one that was approved. There goes George. Basically, the one that was approved was pretty much identical to the Pfizer BioNTech. However, it's a BioNTech one that's been approved. The official one that's been approved has not been. It's not in production.
Yes,
you can't get it.
I get what you're saying.
You can't get it because there's no liability protection.
Yeah.
So if it were manufactured and people were suffering adverse events, there's no liability protection. And if it were approved and it's being manufactured, well, how are they still using the emergency authorization?
Yeah.
Vaccines, because one has been used, one has already been done. And it's basically what I saw when I saw that happen. I got actually sick to my stomach because I was like, because I'm always like, I do want to do this, but it's not really approved. And then it comes out and it's like, this is still too soon.
Yeah.
And I just, because of all the inconsistencies, I'm very skeptical.
Yes.
And
as you should be, as we all should be.
Yeah. And but then you find out, it's like, well, wait a minute, this isn't actually really approved. They're just doing it. But the people, and it's sad because it's both sides. Like, it's both sides. Like, and this is the problem, is because we've been confused so much.
Yes.
Is you got the one side saying, look, it's approved, so now your argument doesn't count. So just shut up and take your jab. Because I care so much about you.
Yeah.
No, you don't. The other thing is on the other side is like, no, it hasn't been approved and I'm looking, because whatever it is, you're just looking to support your argument.
Yeah.
People have started, and it's hard. Like, we're all susceptible to it. I'm susceptible to it. You're susceptible. It's very hard to try to make a reasonable decision based on truth when everybody is just running with what's supporting them. But you have to stop and be skeptical when, wait a minute, why is the opposition being silenced? You can't even say certain things. Like, Trump was elected, and I keep bringing him up. Like, I don't care if you're watching this and you hate Trump, it's fine. Right?
Yeah.
You can do that. If you like him, fine.
You're entitled to like him or hate him. That's a part of life, right?
In 2016, he wins the U.S. election. Then Not My President is trending. He didn't win. It was Russian collusion. Goes to court. The entire presidency is caught up in scandal after scandal, and they're not actual scandals. They're media-created scandals. If you're looking at it objectively, it's all media-created scandals. And then the next election, the other guy wins, and the other side's saying that the election was rigged, it was flawed because of this, and all of a sudden everything is silenced.
Yep.
You're not allowed to question it. You're not allowed to do anything. It's like, right there is your answer.
Yeah.
If you can't see that, if you can't see the comparison between the two, the one is accepted and the other isn't. That is cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's okay to question. Like, it's when you say, like, oh, if you question the integrity of the election, you're questioning democracy.
Well, a local
that is democracy.
A local example of what you're talking about in Canada can be used with Rebel News. Now, I'm not an advocate of. I'm not a fucking fanboy of Rebel News. I enjoy their stuff. It's very low budget. It's not the best stuff, but they are the other side of the spectrum. So a lot of the times they're reporting on the other side of the story, right? There's always two sides of a story. They're often not the traditional side that you would see on CTV, CP24, etc., etc. And throughout this whole election process that we just went through, I found it very odd that no one questioned, other than the people who support that news outlet, why they weren't allowed to be in there. They had to literally go into litigation against Justin Trudeau just to get people into that debate. Right? Now, if you're I don't care if you're a liberal supporter, you're entitled to that. If you're a liberal supporter, you have to then ask the question, well, if what they're saying is I'm trying to word this correctly. If what they're saying is actually
terrorists,
if what they're saying is actually false and misinformation, like Justin Trudeau is saying they're this outlet, why not let them ask the question so you can debunk them right in front of everyone, make them look stupid, and then everyone can make their own judgment that they are a fake news outlet, which is what the liberals and the conservatives and the NDP are promoting. We don't answer questions from Rebel News because you're a fake news outlet. You spread misinformation. Well, if they do, if that is the thing that they're doing, let them ask you the question so you can fucking debunk it right there and make people see how stupid it is. I mean, that's what I do when some idiot comes up and says, "I know how to lift, I know how to do jiu-jitsu." Blah, blah, blah. Well, how do I prove him wrong that he's an idiot and has a white belt and not a black belt? You go and you fucking beat him up and you roll with him and you just tap him out in 30 seconds. Well, why not do the same thing? Then people will believe you, right? Yeah. Instead, they just silence them. They push them back with litigation or whatever. And, Canadians just accept that, oh, they said they're bad, so they are bad. No, they're not bad. They're just reporting the side they don't want you to hear.
Yeah. I mean, you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes truth. They say that Joseph Goebbels and Hitler said that. I don't think that's true. I think it was P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
The founder of modern public relations. But and with the Rebel News thing, it's like, if they're a news outlet, let them ask their questions. Let them look like idiots. But if you're not allowed to, it's like the whole debate with the jab. It's the whole debate with COVID. It's why is I don't know if you saw the recent Project Veritas videos.
I haven't seen them yet. No.
Ooh, there was a big one this week. It broke YouTube. You get caught up on Project Veritas.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
It's just it's regarding the jab, right? But again, it could be one of those things where you're just trying to fill your own belief structure, right? So it's almost like we're not evolved enough to process all the information that's coming at us. But I mean, look at the whole lab leak stuff and everything. Evidence is coming out daily that it's a lab leak. So if Fauci funded this gain of function research, yet he's also the same one pushing the vax, and his wife is the one approving it. Like, how do you not see past the problem here? Yeah. And why is it that Alex Jones is the person over the last couple of years who's been making the most sense?
Yeah, of all people, him, right? Exactly.
Right.
But it comes back to that. I think you sent me the video before this election, the vote splitting phenomenon or theory or whatever, and that video is very good, and it actually kind of influenced me and my decision making in this past election, because what people don't realize is you can't vote out a tyrant with someone just because you want him out. That doesn't solve the issue that we have.
With the United States, that's worked out real well for us.
Like, the issue that we have in Canada specifically is that we basically, and I think you said this last time we talked, we basically just get tired of one guy and vote in another guy. And just because we're just tired of one guy, the classic Canadian mistake, I think that's what it was.
After 3 terms, you just can't stand the guy no matter.
Can't stand the guy anymore. You've seen him too much, whatever. Like, and so I had to explain this to my wife when we were sitting down thinking about how we were going to vote and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, we already lived 6 years with this fucker, right? We already lived 6 years with him, and quite frankly, at the end of those 6 years, we're a lot better off than before. Not because of him, but because we've been able to maneuver and change.
It's your stage of life, right?
Yeah, our stage of life and where I was when he got in office. And now it was guaranteed out as long as I was a hardworking person, I would be further along, right? So we've already dealt with the bullshit for 6 years, and voting in O'Toole, in my opinion, was not an upgrade. It wasn't an upgrade. It was either the same or could have potentially been worse because of the path he took in his campaign.
Flip-flopped on everything.
You couldn't tell if he was left-leaning, right-leaning. You couldn't tell. He was just all over the place.
Well, here's the dumbest thing about the O'Toole campaign, because I didn't follow it terribly closely. I knew what I was going for. I read the platforms. And O'Toole used Brian Mulroney to promote his campaign.
Yeah.
This is how stupid Canadians can be. Brian Mulroney. How did Brian Mulroney's reign end?
Yeah, not very well.
Do you know how it ended?
I'm
in the background.
I'm a little. It's bouncing off your bald head.
Yeah, it's too shiny.
Your head's too shiny. It's like you just need to set you in film sets and just bounce the light off your head. But no, familiarize me. I think I know, but I don't want to say and sound like an idiot.
No confidence.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah.
From a majority government.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Like a no confidence from a majority. There's a difference between a minority no confidence and a majority no confidence. His own party, he became so disliked that his own party, I'm trying to cover the light in my head, his own party kicked him out. And that's when Kim Campbell came in. Yeah. And she was our only female prime minister ever. She had the shortest time. And she got, then, the next election, Jean Chrétien destroyed her with a majority, right? So it's like he uses Brian Mulroney to promote his agenda. Now, these people are talking about vote splitting. Now, when Brian Mulroney was prime minister, what party was he the head of?
It was conservative. No, sorry, I'm spacing out.
It was the Progressive Conservative.
Progressive Conservative. Yeah.
It was not the Conservative Party.
Yeah. That's why I paused for a second. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The change.
So as a direct result of Brian Mulroney, Chrétien gets in. And because Mulroney was considered what's called a red Tory, right? So he's just a liberal conservative. Just like Pierre Trudeau was an NDP liberal.
Yeah.
And not an NDP, this kind of.
I need to get me one of them shirts.
So let's go to markdice.com. You'll find one. Anyway, Brian Mulroney was a red Tory. So the result of Brian Mulroney, the Reform Party of Canada formed.
Yeah. Similar
to how the PPC did.
Yes.
So what ended up happening was the Liberals just dominated the 90s, right? So, and the Reform Party under Preston Manning got quite a bit of run. And then they decided to merge the Reform Party with the Progressive Conservative Party, and that formed the Conservative Party of Canada.
Yeah. Okay.
So here we are. This is how dumb politics are, is you have the Conservative Party leader using somebody from a different party, pretending it was the same party, because it's not. The Progressive Conservatives and the Conservative Party of Canada are not supposed to be the same.
No.
But this is what happens when you worry about the vote split. So, first of all, the media has done a very successful job saying how evil right-wing politics are.
Yes.
Right?
Great job.
Well, the issue is that if the line is here, this is my left hand. The left wing is here. The right wing is here. Say like, oh, they're far right. But what's actually happened policy-wise is the left has moved further left.
Yes.
I think I talked about this last time.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. But what's happening is when you vote split is You're worried, oh, we can't do the vote split. We got to make sure that we get our person. So the left starts going over, and you're just chasing them.
Yeah.
You're not actually standing for your values.
No.
So it's not that it's far right. It's just still right. And what is right? It's technically it's true liberalism, which is individual rights and their rights to property ownership and all that, and respect your neighbor and blah,
And
blah,
that's
blah.
what I explained to Becky when we were talking about this, was that when this election that just happened, when we wanted to vote, we were very torn because, like we were just talking about, the Conservative Party is not the Conservative Party anymore, right? And so we were very torn to find how our values and how change we wanted would be represented, right? And what I told my wife is that, and this is the kind of election you don't just vote to get somebody out because you want them out, and you look at the platforms, they're very similar. And this is an election where, even though it may not be the right thing to do in terms of other people's eyes, you vote for where you want the country to go. You vote for the change that you want to invoke. You might have to endure some more bullshit to get the change. It's like anything. It's like any, the stupid, how do you get the success? It's like a stock market chart. You go up, down, up. To get to the change that you want to get to, you're gonna have to still endure some of these rough times. But you got to vote for that change in order for it to ever occur, right?
And not against something that you don't want.
Exactly. And so that's why once I saw that video and I heard the explanation and I thought about it in my head over and over and over, and I'm like, how I voted is nobody's fucking business, but I voted for change. Look at that, how it is. Look at what the landscape was. I voted for the change that I wanted for my kids growing up in this country, if we even stay here for them to grow up, which is pretty much no right now, we're not. I voted for that change that we wanted. I didn't vote just to get the guy out. The guy will get out when he gets out, right? I voted for the change that when he does get out, this is where we want to end up too. And I think that's where a lot of people were lost with that frame of mind.
All they're doing is playing the game and just allowing their values to get pulled over.
Exactly, yeah.
If you vote based, you can't possibly split a vote.
No, I don't think it's
if you vote based on your values and the platform that you like. If it's on the same, if it's in the same group of plebes that the group of plebes you're in is divided in two, whichever of that group of plebes you feel is best represents you, you vote for.
Yeah.
And same on the other side, and then maybe the other side just avoids doing that. Sooner or later, it's going to happen there. The pendulum always swings. The problem now is they're trying to cut the pendulum out.
Yes.
They're trying to remove the pendulum. Yeah. And it's sad how people are falling for this. Why are people it's been so upsetting to see young people on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube referring to the rights as privileges.
Yes. Yeah.
If you want your privileges, what the hell? The government is not your parents. They're not your privileges. The ability to wake up in the morning, take a shower, hop in your car, go to Tim Hortons, get a coffee, go to the mall, buy something stupid, and then go to work.
Yeah.
Then after work, go to the gym, work out, look at some hot chicks, go to the mall, do something stupid, buy something stupid, go home, waste your night. Those are your rights.
Yeah,
it's not your privilege.
It's not a none of what you mentioned is privilege. That's even how they like to say driving is a privilege. No, did you think
driving is a privilege.
I know, I know, but I
they try to compare it.
I argue that driving is a privilege. Well, back in the day, if you were fucking driving a horse and carriage, that wasn't a privilege. That was what you had to fucking do to get around. So I'm not making some people should not have licenses to drive because they can kill and hurt a lot of fucking people. I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just trying to say the action of moving, freedom of movement from one
You need
place
a
to another.
license to drive. You don't need a license to move around.
Move. That's where I'm
And
getting. That's where I was getting.
by provoking a vax pass, you're basically making it a license for you to move around.
Yes.
And the more that people accept this, now you've removed your God-given human rights
to move, freely move. That's what I'm talking about.
And you are making them privileges.
Yeah.
Right? That's why, like that, there's a speech in V for Vendetta that he talks about how, you can't cast the blame solely on them. You have to cast the blame on yourself. And the worst part of it is people see things too much on the surface. Right? So I do like that movie.
Yeah.
And, you watch it and it's like these right-wing lunatics because they have the cross and it's all like religious and stuff. And that's how they always portray it, so that it gets the easily mentally persuaded plebes to look for direct, they look for direct examples. So it's like, it's always the religious people who are doing it. They fail to see parallels, right? Like right now, I was listening to Peterson the other day, and he was talking about like the whole fat acceptance movement and that, and how you remove religion from society and religion forms in other ways.
Yeah.
And that's where wokeism comes. Like, he is so
he's a brilliant guy. Like,
he's so brilliant.
The clips he posts on Instagram, I encourage everyone to listen to at least one.
Yeah. And of course, you got to shut him down, right? The group of other plebes, they got to shut him down, because
regardless of how you feel about the guy, if anyone's listening, how they feel about the guy, just listen to him and just be open about it. Just listen to his message and be open about it. Make your judgment after. Just be open while you're listening to it. And I think
the problem is they can't get past the ad hominem attack of not liking him, finding a mistake in him. So you can't do it. That's called ad hominem, and that is not a valid argument.
Yeah.
Right. So but yeah, like, so he was talking about that, and you form religion. So people see a movie like V for Vendetta, and they always equate it to the crazy religious people. They can't see the religion of woke that they're actually doing. Like, communism itself is against, like, the actual written document of the Communist Manifesto is completely against religion, thus making communism itself a religion.
Yeah.
Because that's how they start to look at it. But they can't see it because they're above it. It's like one of the things when, like, I'm not an atheist, right?
Yeah.
But you run into some of these atheists, and they talk to you like you're stupid if you believe that.
No. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I have run into
and they fail to realize that atheism in itself is a religion.
Yes, it's exactly the same thing as what they're trying to say. I am doing, like, you're part of a religion too. Yeah, 100%.
Same with vegans. Same with CrossFitters. Same with BJJ idiots like us.
Yep, exactly. Part of this little religious cult that loves to hug each other on the mats and roll around.
We love to snuggle in our pajamas.
Snuggle in our pajamas. Anyway,
I prefer the pajamas. No pajamas.
So anyway, how do we? Where the fuck were we? We're so stupid.
We're talking about, like, the parallel. So what I was getting at, we're talking about with V for Vendetta, with how the movie portrays the religious side as the extreme right, and people fail to understand that there is no extreme right and extreme left when it involves totalitarianism. It's totalitarianism and individualism. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other spectrum. To look at it the other way, communism, I said it the last time we spoke, communism always turns into fascism, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's not exactly Mussolini's fascism or Hitler's fascism does not make it any less fascist. It's the history doesn't repeat itself thing, right? History does not repeat itself. History rhymes.
Yes.
Right? It rhymes. It's not going to be exactly the same, right? Like, people who say, like, look, like, if you read books like 1984, they discuss how the totalitarians adjust language. They change language.
That's exactly what's happening in
in this whole jab process, they change the definition of what an anti-vaxxer is.
Yep, exactly.
They're basically saying, if you don't agree to take every single vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
That's the only way to explain how Merriam-Webster changed that definition, right? Because if I take every other vaccine except this one, I'm an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? That doesn't make sense in itself. So that is
ridiculous. Like the
logic, and it comes down to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like it comes down to Star Wars, right? Here we go, right?
Down the rabbit hole.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's either you take them all, or you're an anti-vaxxer. You can't take like 99 of 100. So it's all or nothing, right? So it's like, come on, man. Like this world is getting harder and harder.
Well, the other term that they label everyone is anti-lockdown. Like, who in the fuck is in favor of a lockdown? Like, even if you're on the side of taking the
you don't anti-masker.
I'm gonna put my mindset into. This is me putting the cap on here. I'm putting the cap on. I'm putting myself into this mindset. If I believe in this vaccine so much, if I believe in the mask so much, why would I be against us getting back to normal or normal activities? That is sort of why we are doing these measures, right? But all of a sudden, somebody who says, I'm against the lockdown, and I'm not. The lockdown and the measures are two different things. The health measures are one thing, and the lockdowns are another thing. I'm against lockdown. I don't believe that we should be locked down. The economy should be locked down. Well, how is that any different? You want to get back to those activities why would you want them closed? That's why I'm doing these things. That's why I'm social distancing. That's why I'm putting the mask on. That's why I want to get back to these. So why would you label someone who just doesn't agree with the fact that we're not allowed to move? Do you get what I'm saying? I feel like I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, I do. It comes down to, I remember I was doing an online boot camp class, and early on in the pandemic, like end of April.
Yeah.
And someone brought up new normal.
Yes.
Right. And I said, guys, please don't use that terminology. Don't use that terminology. They're trying to brainwash you into accepting a change in our freedom. Right. And I saw on the screen, I had like 10 people on my screen, and I could see a couple of them being like, you can see them hesitant, like, how could Chris be saying this? Right. But they don't understand, like, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's the new normal. We're going towards a new normal. Man, like all the phrasing, watching this Canadian election from 5,000 miles away was like watching a movie.
Yeah.
Listening. George is naked.
He's just running around.
George, he speaks Klingon. He goes like, datu. He's got a cup, but he's the happiest kid ever right now. He just had a shower, it looks like. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got super distracted there. This whole new normal thing, all the slogans that they've been going with this, and watching the Canadian election, that's where I was from afar. It's like it's like watching a movie. The things these politicians say are so incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this together we do this. Like, it's so predictable and stupid that seeing people follow it and post it and believe it, and it's like, comes down to Agent K again, right?
Exactly.
Like, the person is smart, but people are dumb, dangerous, panicky animals.
Like, I'm sure you watching Trudeau, like what I
can't listen to that man. Every time he opens his mouth, I want to punch it.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That being said, yes, I agree with you. But watching him at his rallies bugged me, not because of him. I don't care about.
What, you mean the people chasing him out of the towns?
Or the gravel throwers, the weapons that they use, the weapons of destruction they used to hit him with.
I'm totally against people throwing gravel at Trudeau. I mean, bricks maybe, but
yeah.
No,
where's Antifa when you need them?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching
him speak, he wasn't speaking as a rational, thinking human being. He was very angry in his tone. He was very angry and directed, and very, in my opinion, dangerous. The way he was speaking reminded me a lot of some of the history videos I've watched of very bad men. The way he was referring to people, the way he was just talking about his agendas and everything. It seemed like a very violent person. And when I say violent, I don't mean
but it's just compassion. He's so
I don't mean
it's
physical violence. I mean a type of violence that will destroy people to a whole new level. Like when you get in their head to that level, that is a violence you can't get out.
and at the same time, it's like people think it's funny when people try to equate, if you're anti-jab, right? I hate to use that thing. So say if you choose not anti-jab, you just choose not to take it, that you're this specific health scare in society. And when people equate it to, Juden in Nazi Germany, people get offended.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's not even close. It's like, you got to stop. You say never again, but like, they didn't go from practicing the religion to gas chamber.
Yeah.
Right. And people say this like it's one step at a time. Winston Churchill said, the price of peace is eternal vigilance. People only equate that to going to war, like, the war on terror. Like we have to go to fight those Iraqis who don't actually have weapons of mass destruction just because they have weapons of mass destruction because we say so. And we got to fight them because of terrorism. And we got to go to Afghanistan and knock them into the first century. And I remember Robin Williams made the joke, oh, upgrade. Right. So, but we have to do this, and that's vigilance. No, vigilance is in your daily actions, how you treat other human beings. And so I got to give him a cameo here.
Yeah, there he is.
Where's that face?
Where is it?
That's not plain sight.
There he's hungry. Look at that.
He's hungry. So, but that's how it happens, and it's sad to see this, and it's all over the world right now. Like it's nuts. Like I'm down here, and we're having second guesses about staying here. We're starting to weigh our options. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. I like it here. I like the Belizean people. It's a bit of a pain in the ass living here because it's hard to get stuff. But I mean, it gets any crazier here. We're heading to Mexico.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and we feel the same way, because I think I told you this last time we were looking at the option of getting out of here, and now in our head it's finalized that we will be getting out of here at some point. We won't be like not Canadians anymore. We're going to split our time. That's something that we want to do in another place. It's just another opportunity that we saw that sparked from this situation. But now we're sitting back, and when we're looking, okay, where do we want to go? Well, it's happening everywhere, right? There's a very select few places where pockets of the world you can get away from right now, and you can actually be away from it. But it's like a wildfire. It's spreading everywhere, and there's not much running you can do before you're gonna run into it, right?
Yeah, so, like I saw a guy online the other day. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm about to go to Australia," and it was on Henry's Well.
Yeah.
Not my dog, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. And I commented, I was like, dude, you must not be paying attention to what's happening in Australia right now. And he actually commented back, no, I'm not. What's happening in Australia? I'm like, oh God.
Because that was my wife's first thought, because she spent 3 or 4 years there.
Australia's Canada South.
Yeah.
You know how bad?
Sorry, go ahead.
Like Blaine and I badly would like to just jump on a plane, fly to Canada, visit some family, spend about a month there, and then fly back. Right. Yeah. But we don't have that option.
No, you don't. You come in my opinion, if you come back here, you risk the possibility of not being able to get back out ever again. Right? Yeah. I think that this is just my personal opinion. Other people can have their opinion about it, but I think the next time me and my family all get on a plane, we're not going to be coming back. I just, like, if I'm going on a plane, it's probably because I'm maybe going to go compete or something. But the next time all 4 of us start on a plane together, or for the first time, actually, because we haven't been able to travel since Benson was born, because he was born in 2019, right before it started, it's going to be, we're not getting a return ticket. That's just how I feel at this point. And I mean, I'm not trying to paint this picture that, I'm living in this first world country and I'm all privileged and I'm angry. And no, I'm saying the future very much, I wouldn't say seems bleak, but it's not a very well painted picture for politics around the world. There's this shift that's happening, and it's spread. Like last year, it was very contained. Now it's spread, and I'm not talking about the virus, if you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. It was contained for a reason.
Yeah.
And the media worked real hard to remove that reason. Right. So yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm all ready to grab my sword and shield and fight for my freedom. I'm serious, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are getting there too.
Yeah.
I interact with a lot of people on a daily basis, and it's funny because not these people don't agree with what's going on, but because they're attacks by, like, for example, mandates. I ran into somebody. It breaks my heart when I have to hear this. There's so many guys I know where their work is mandating it. So now you're putting people in this position.
And then people turn around and say, "Oh, we're not forcing anybody."
Yeah, exactly. You're putting people in a position where,
what is coercion, right?
Yeah, and you're putting it breaks my heart because, I mean, fortunately, I don't have to go through this as a business owner. I don't have to face this kind of a situation, but I have friends now who, they work in the hospital or they work at just a lawyer. I have a friend who's a lawyer and he works at a lawyer's office. Like, that has nothing to do with anything. That's the lowest risk possible. You're a fucking lawyer. But now you're giving this person an option between providing for their family and doing something they don't want to do. And what makes you think that by this person complying, they're not going to come back to that office and fucking resent the shit out of you for the next. You're not going to get a happy, healthy workplace environment. You're not creating more toxic workplace environments. Now you're taking, say, let's say, based on the percentages that they're throwing out there, so the certain population is gotten the jab. Well, you're going to take 20% of each workplace and fire them because they didn't get it. What is that going to do to the economy, dumbasses? It's going to fucking tank the economy.
But they don't care though. They're looking
But
for compliance. That's why the U.S. military is doing all the wokeness. They're trying to identify the people they don't want for the thuggery. There's a lot to it. It sounds very conspiracy, but again, this is another one of those conspiracies that's real.
Yeah.
And well, let's wrap with this, right?
Yeah.
So, what's going to happen, I believe, in Canada over the next 18 months is the divide is going to get deeper. Yeah. Trudeau is going to push Canadians. Just look at Australia. They're just 4 or 5 months ahead of Canada.
It's a war zone. It's a war zone.
So, except Canadians still have guts.
Yeah.
Right. And credit, I saw like the Niagara Regional Police are like, "Screw you guys. We're not forcing this crap." Right. We're here for the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. Good for you guys. But anyway, what's going to happen is Canadians, they're going to create the divide. They're going to use more and more rhetoric. Yes. That's going to divide the people more and more, doing the best to vilify the non-compliant. Yeah. It's going to push Canadians to the brink. There's going to be an event. Something is going to happen. Yeah. And they're going to use this event similar to what the U.S. is using January 6th for, because January 6th is not what the mainstream media says it was, right? They're using it as the Reichstag fire. And they're going to use in Canada whatever this event is, because it's just going to push Canadians to a point where something's going to happen. And they're going to use this to attack all the isms and ists and those supreme people and all that, vilify any sort of opposition. And it's going to come down to whether Canadians put a stop to it or not, right? And it'll happen within 18 months, because what's going to happen, they're going to use these sort of strategies to create an event, and they're going to, at the height of the propaganda cycle, call another election.
Yeah, that's what.
And try to get another majority.
Yeah.
Right. And
I agree with you 100%. I was telling that to a lot of people last year. I thought that this year there would be that sort of event that you're referring to. I thought it was going to happen this year, and I was mistaken. It will happen within the next 18 months, and it all makes sense if you just think about it. But yes, and it's scary to think about it because you don't know what kind of event that could be, right? It
Yeah.
could be.
Now the thing with Canadians is we're very docile and complacent people.
Yeah.
But to our credit, Canadians can be very, when we get pushed, Canadians can be very,
Very lethal.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we're a point of pride for the country is like our troops were the most feared troops in World War One and World War Two, right?
Yeah.
So the we get the job done, but I fear that Canada's just not Canada anymore.
It's
Right?
not.
So
And as somebody who's living here and still here, I can tell you on a daily basis, it gets uh, more un-Canadian than it, like. I remember not long ago where if I held a door open for somebody, I would be like, "Hey, man, thank you very much." It was like they would come out. Now I hold the door open for somebody, and I'm so lucky as if I get a head nod or anything. They just walk
it's
by like
because
that.
you can't talk and stuff because
Yeah,
you're muzzled.
yeah, because and so for me, that's the most glaring thing. Like when I was growing up, people you would walk across another Canadian, not even know them. You give them a head nod. You talk. The conversation was there. It was always pleasant. It was always pleasant to talk to another person. And now on the streets, especially Toronto, it's just a fucking tension. Like everyone's looking at each other with judgment eyes, and it's just the most. It's not Canadian. It has fell, and it's going to take a lot to bring it back to that. A lot.
It's funny how you said there that for my Japanese Jiu-Jitsu black belt, there was a social component to it that our sensei made us do, and that was we had to do like 150 good deeds,
Yeah.
right, and record them,
It's a
right. And
lot.
it's like one of those things you're like, I'm a BJJ guy. It's just fun.
I just want
You
to.
know, I just want to choke people, get my black belt, right? So, but there's a social component there too. But this was actually action, and I was like, well, how am I going to get all these things in? I opened like 150 doors, and it's so easy because you just automatically do it anyway, right? Because being a Canadian, you're just like open the door, right? Open the door. Yeah. So I'm at a 4-way stop. Go ahead.
But yeah, that and so I agree with everything you said. Because I thought it was going to happen this year. I thought that event and that would happen this year. Um, and yeah, it's unfortunate that
I think it's going to be. I think that what's going to create the event is they're going to really try to isolate people who don't comply, the uncompliant, and push human rights to the brink.
Yeah.
And either people are going to wake up to it
or fall,
or they're going to accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that that's the way it's going to be. But I feel the same way. And I'm not trying to paint a grim picture. I don't think that you're trying to do it either. I just think that's just the reality of the situation. And things need to be done. But, before we go, because I want to order a fucking pizza. It's a Friday night. What do you think?
I got to eat some pasta before my 6-hour ride in the morning.
What do you think can be done? Like if we're sitting here thinking, okay, like we're gonna wrap this shit up of all what we talked about, what can be done? Like what steps need to be taken for me and you to revisit this conversation in 6 months and be like, hey, we're headed in a direction where we're going back to what I consider normal, right?
Complete non-compliance.
One
It's
word.
the only way, because what they're doing is gyms, churches, pubs, all get shut down.
Yeah.
Revolutions start in social settings. By shutting all that down, like it sounds more conspiracy, but it's the truth. By shutting all that down, by stopping families from being able to see each other, turning families on one another. Do you know who Yuri Bezmenov is?
No, I don't.
You need to look up Yuri Bezmenov. Talk to Ivan about it.
Okay, I will.
He'll send it to you, right? a lot of it'll make sense, right? And you should link it to this too, Yuri Bezmenov, because
Okay, I'll take a look at it. Yeah.
yeah, it's about subverting democracy, right?
Okay.
So yeah, all right. So yeah, let's call it a wrap because I gotta eat, fuel
Yeah.
up for my morning. And great chat, Ashton. We've been going
It
forever.
was a great chat. But yeah, thank you for doing it. Also, just tell people, because a lot of people loved you from The Last of Us. Tell people where they can reach you and about your life coaching stuff, so they can reach out to you if they want any of that.
Yeah, I don't like to take on a lot of clients because I take it real seriously when I do it. And if you're looking to make a change, it's a Ripple Effect Life Coaching. You can just Facebook it or just direct message me on Facebook. I'm in Belize. You can just message me direct, and that's the best way. Just Facebook Messenger me. I always get back to you if I read your message and because you see my icon pop up, but I don't reply to you immediately, or if there's a message me again because I usually don't miss messages. If you send me a message and it looks like I didn't check it, I saw it, but I don't open it until I'm ready to reply to it because that way it doesn't get pushed down my messenger box because I do get quite a few messages. That's
All right, cool.
right, because I like that annoying prompt on my cell phone to remind me.
Yeah, I do that too. I leave them on there. I leave all the icons because
otherwise you forget, man.
Yeah, I'll forget. I'll swipe it off and be like, oh, whatever. Anyway,
and I'm in Belize, so the only way I keep manage knowing what day it is my clients. If it wasn't for my clients, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't even remember. Time stands still in the tropics, right?
Right. Oh, totally. I can't believe it's September because the leaves are still green.
Oh, don't remind me. Toronto was a shit pile today. Like in that classic Canadian turnover weather, it was just gloomy.
In one day, yeah, it's like
rain,
5 degrees.
Like literally last week on Sunday, it was like 30 degrees, and now it's 12 degrees, rainy, wet, ugly, no sun,
dark.
Yeah, depressing as fuck.
Yeah.
Let's leave it on that note. So thank you everybody for listening. Tune in next time. I'm gonna bring you another great show. Peace out.
All right, thanks for having me, Ashton.
Buddy, thank you for watching. Please do me a favor. Click the like below. Share on YouTube. Share on Instagram. Share on Facebook. Spread the word so I can keep creating more content for you and keep providing you with a great podcast experience. Peace out.